Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology Victoria, once again for a weekly report of our astro weather. Unfortunately, Dulcie is not here with us this week again. Hopefully next week she'll be here with us. And well, with no further ado, we will be looking at the week of March 27th, starting Monday. And I'm going to share my screen to see what goodies we have for this week. Let me play this slideshow. Let's get it on. Okay, this week, Monday, March the 27th until Sunday, April the 2nd. Wow. So we have a few little things and a few little changes. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is this Mercury ingressing in Aries. We will have a start of the week with some big Aries energy. The sun is already in Aries, and Mercury entering Aries can make things a little bit more quick, a little bit more let's do this. I've got these ideas. It's short. You know, Mercury in Aries wants things now, things quickly. It's to the point, gets excited. It's the mind. The mind might get a little bit more fired up with projects and ideas, especially because the sun in Aries wants us to kind of start something new, or at least is this beginning of the astrological new year where finally spring is here and the energy starts being less, let's say, lethargic, or, you know, and there's this flood of, okay, what's new? That is something that you might notice, that the passage from Mercury in Pisces, where we're dreaming the realities, we're in this flood of consciousness that the Pisces brings. However, this is not finished. The whole Pisces thing is going to get super strong this month, especially by the end of the month of April. But this week might seem like there's a few things in the mix. So this Mercury into Aries will make this your mind be a little bit more active. Maybe more ideas might come to you that need to be implemented. You might also be a little bit more impatient sometimes. That can happen, but also get like great like energy for starting things. That's like the good thing about these Aries energies. Spring, you see, the sun's finally out. We feel like going out. So that's like one thing that you might notice, changes in your thoughts as well, and in your communication. Mercury in Aries is like straight, is direct, to the point. It doesn't go around in poetry like Mercury in Pisces does. So you might find your communication changing and be a little bit more diligent and active. That is one aspect of this like start of the week. However, it's not just that, because as we can see, we have this is here, this little bunch, Mercury, and it's not yet conjunct the sun, but we'll soon have that Cassini. And why am I not being able to? Oh, Aries, yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this Aries energy, because as much as we will have some of this Aries season here, this is not the time when we have the most planets in Aries. This week, certainly, there's more of that energy, but there will be some restraint of this, like, yeah, go energy, because we still have Saturn and Venus and Mars together, and Saturn slows things down. So you see here, our Aries energy is a go energy, is a I go solo energy, it's a brave energy, it's a warrior energy. It's, you know, Aries is ruled by Mars, so it's this newness energy. And at the same time we're having this, we'll have a sextile of Mercury Pluto. So, you know, I talked Mercury in Aries. This could be like quick mind, quick, you know. The thing is that when we have Pluto in the mix, and you see the sextile, Mercury sextiling Pluto here, there could be also a desire to keep digging into the deeper, dirtier parts of the psyche. You know, every time Pluto is in the mix, we want to go and transform something, detach from something, show something that needs to go. That's Pluto's role, to show what needs to be transformed. And it's the darker parts. And when Mercury is in contact, there's this opportunity to keep reviewing and revising, or even going into those places where we still need to, take out the trash. That's when Mercury is in good aspects with Pluto, there's still this opportunity to have those conversations, to have those thoughts, to look into what is no longer serving, and have those, again, airing the dirty laundry kind of conversations with Mercury. So that's gonna kind of be happening at the same time as Mercury ingresses Aries. So very different energy. This sextile is carried from the previous month, so it's not necessarily something that it's just new. This has been going on already for a little bit, having conversations about the shadows, the depth, what we need to transform. This has been going on already. When it goes in Aries, it just changes the tone of things. We get more impatient and we want to go deep into something. Mercury and Pluto, it's like depth. It's like it's this penetrating. It's an intense mind, right? So it might move from Pisces, where we might be more inspired. It might be more connected to a realm of dreams, where we are a little bit more in this fuzzy feeling. And then it gets very sharp, very intense, very deep, and very penetrating. That's like Pluto Mercury. Intense communications. So however that shows up for you, it's a sextile. So it's not like it's obviously there. It's something that you can use if you still need to have certain deep conversations with somebody and you're like, kind of putting it off. Well, remember, there's this, okay, I still can look at these things and bring up these conversations, or have these self-observations as well. It does not necessarily have to be something we communicate to others, or things we find in the media or news, that are, it could be just yourself. It could be a self-exploration as well of what we're still looking at in order to move into the next cycles, especially as this month progresses. It feels that there's a whole new cycle starting. Like it's not completely ended all what we've been going through, but it feels that there's a renewal of the energy for sure. So this will be active from March 25th to March 27th, more exactly. And then we have now the Venus conjunct Saturn. So Venus has been in a little uncomfortable position between Mars and Saturn, in a malefic enclosure. It just means that Venus's role, which is grace, beauty, pleasure, all of that, is a little bit more difficult at this moment when we have Mars on one side and Saturn. And as Venus comes closer to Saturn, there can be several themes that present themselves here. So the first themes that we see, it's because it's in Aquarius, and we're going to have also the moon there. There could be feelings of maybe isolation, feelings of complete detachment and coldness, moon, Saturn, Venus. Like, so on March 28th, if you feel, especially if you have planets in those degrees of Aquarius, the 20th to 25th degree of Aquarius, or Leo, or Scorpio, or Leo's, all the fixed signs, and Taurus. So Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, you might be feeling this energy like a little bit difficult to cope with, and it's asking something of you. So maybe feeling lonely, feeling unloved, feeling that like pleasure is not easy to get to, that there's hardship, and also maybe alienation, separation. This is Aquarius, right? So it could be a very detached energy as well, almost feeling like you're not connecting to something deeper or more emotional. It's very mental. So there could be those feelings. And in relationships, this could play out as well as feeling like alienated from a relationship, feeling like you're not connecting, like something's maybe off. I'm going to read a little passage on Venus, Mars, Saturn from Ren Butler's Archetypal Universe, because it can present itself in its best way as well. If we know how to use this energy properly, it could lead to further commitments. It could lead to responsibility in relationships as well, with Mars also still being close by, even though Venus now is moving away and we feel it more like a Saturn, Moon, Venus kind of feeling. Mars is still impacting Venus. So romantic and sexual integrity, tempered love and desire, steady working partnerships, a gift for dynamic craftsmanship. That it's like at its best. There's this, we can put a little bit of a damper on desire. And in Aquarius, Venus is not necessarily wanting to bond. Venus might be a little bit more detached and feeling more free. And at the same time, freedom comes with responsibility. That could be another interpretation of Saturn being there. How can we have mature relationships? And I'm going to talk a little bit about conscious relationships, because when Venus and Mars are together in Aquarius, there is this idea of the yin receiving energies and the yang within ourselves, and the responsibility with Saturn of what that means. And when we are conscious, when we have conscious partnerships, it's not about projecting onto another. It's not about the codependent attachments. It's not about you are mine. It's not about the possession of another. It's about being able to relate to another from the wholeness of our being, from taking responsibility for our emotions, taking responsibility for our actions, and then being able to communicate it to our partners or anybody, any relationship. It could be a romantic partnership, or it also could be any kind of close relationship. So it's taking responsibility. This is, I think, the best way to take this energy is, how am I being responsible in my relationships? Am I taking ownership of myself, my self-love, my being, my integrity, and how am I reflecting that with others, respecting boundaries, setting boundaries? That's Saturn, Saturn and Venus. It's like strong boundaries in relationships. Can we respect those boundaries and then honor ourselves as well? The conscious partnership, which is part of this Aquarian paradigm, it's that's why Venus is a little bit more free in Aquarius, because it's more about how I am myself within my being, with what my special, unique individuality, Venus in Aquarius, and what I love. And it's a little bit of a free love. We talked about this in previous videos. Free love is not irresponsible love. I think this is the stepping stone to more unconditional love. And we will see more of this as the Pisces energy gets even stronger and stronger, because we have Jupiter and Neptune also conjunct in Pisces, and we'll talk about that. As this Aquarian energy is also there, where we could see that maybe we're wanting to break free from relationships a little bit, or even explore more of what freedom means. And the conscious partnership, I go back to this, is that capacity that where each person is their own individual and still can have beautiful interdependent, not codependent relationships, interdependent. That's how we build one-on-one relationships. And that's how we build the relationships between more than one, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then communities build like that. The interdependence of one's own individuality within that interdependence. It's kind of like a beautiful thing, because Saturn wants us to create these structures of relationship properly. And this is why with the Aries energy of like impulse and impetus, right? Like, wow, you know, as Mars comes closer to Saturn, there might be a little bit of a damper as well. Like, oh, hold your horses a little bit, you know, with maybe a lot of like, let's start all these new things and we're so excited about the new, right? But maybe there's still some more things to you know, take it easy, take it slowly, reflect upon your needs, reflect upon others' needs, and exchange. What could happen if we're in the lower vibrations of that Venus, Saturn, Mars? We could end up in problems maintaining a balance between one's yin and yang energies, alternating hot and cold feelings, relationship anger and conflicts, sexual wounds. So then that's the lower expression of this, which means, you know, when somebody has too much yang energy and is pursuing another person, and the other person is like, backing off. And then the one person feels like, they don't love me, I'm alone, it's my fault, I'm bad. Or conversely, one person is super avoidant, you know, and then can't connect at all to others, completely disconnected because they're in their own wounds, that they're avoiding all connection. That's also very Aquarian in nature. I'd rather not have any connections, because then I could be wounded, or I could get wounded, you know, or I was wounded in the past, like there's no way I'm doing this, you know. So there's these things could alternate between the desire and then the wounding and then the detachment. So in its best way, how we can use this energy is being very level-headed, and I think that's how Saturn can help. And also with Mercury and Pluto in that sextile we discussed, well, it's still a great idea to use looking within yourself. Where am I still having attachments? You know, where am I still needing to cling to power dynamics? Because that always shows up with Pluto. How can I release, you know, the need to be in certain power dynamics? Or how can I look at myself more deeply? That's the opportunity that Pluto Mercury always gives us. Look at myself more deeply, so what I project in the world is just a reflection of me and my transformation, Pluto transforming. So this energy in its best gives us this opportunity to create conscious relationships. So just bear that in mind. I'm just going to go really strongly here, because this week is very intense in that sense. Otherwise, you can just be feeling, you know, unloved, alone, you know, stuff like that. And look within and see why, and how can you can take responsibility. That's that. Then simultaneously, we're having this Jupiter conjunct Neptune, starting March 28th until roughly April 28th. So this is like a whole month. This is the beginning of that conjunction. And oh my gosh, what happens when we have Neptune and Jupiter come together? This is the expansion of consciousness at its best, if that's how we want to read into the energy. Everything expands. The feeling that we are reaching higher levels of truth and understanding. You know, Jupiter also, because it represents the highest ideals of truth and the divine truth. What does that even mean? So when these two planets come together, we might have these feelings of like messianic feelings, you know, like there's this huge divine connection. In a positive sense, it could be really beautiful because it is uplifting, it's hopeful, it's almost like surrendering to a much higher power that is driving absolutely everything. And when we surrender to that power, we are carried. We are carried through, all the roughness, if we can surrender. So the best thing to do when we have these alignments is to meditate, is to align yourself with yourself, and let yourself expand in consciousness, and let everything come that needs to come to you. These energies are very transpersonal. We're having a very transpersonal moment, at this moment in time. When Jupiter meets Neptune, it's just like, what could happen if we're in the lower energies of that we could get lost? It could be massive confusion. So yeah, Jupiter with Neptune, it could be a massive state of confusion. Or we could be so optimistic, we're so ungrounded, like living in some kind of fantasy, that then after the transit passes, we might be very disillusioned. Maybe we overshoot the mark of dreams, and we're dreaming so big that we forgot that we have to actually bring those dreams down to earth. And this is like the little is, how can we dream big? Again, Jupiter and Neptune, dream big, bring those insights, those divine inspiration, and then actually start channeling it down by being very grounded. I always insist on the grounding. always make sure you're connecting to yourself, grounding your energy, and using the Saturn function of responsibility and discipline to be able to ground these big dreams. This is a time to dream big. What else could happen with Jupiter Neptune conjunct? If it's in its lower frequency, we might again have like I got the Jesus Christ certificate kind of. It's more when the sun is in the mix, but there might be such divine mystical experiences that we might get caught up in them, and then hello, come down, yoo-hoo, and so it's very important to align those truths that are very personal and also very collective, align them with the betterment of our surroundings, which is all this Aquarius energy here, right? Again, the responsibility. The good news is once Venus passes Saturn here, and it starts detaching from Mars and Saturn that are harsh for all the pleasure and the love and the connection. Right now, it's a very detached moment. As Venus detaches from Mars, Saturn in the coming weeks, we might start feeling again like, floods of beauty, joy, pleasure, connection, soulfulness, like art, all of that will be coming in the next weeks. And if we have done our due diligence, which is usually what Saturn always asks of us, the due diligence of what are we looking at and what area of your chart is Aquarius in? Because Saturn is ruling Aquarius. I mean, it's rule of Aquarius, and it's very strong right now as it moves through Aquarius. So if we have done our due diligence of this house in your chart, so look at what house you have in your chart in the Aquarian section, and ask yourself in that area of life how you have been taking responsibility for your relationships, for the right dynamics of give and take, and for your individuality, and creating systems that are interdependent and that are for the betterment. Because the downside is always alienation. And let's not forget that the downside of Aquarius could be total alienation. I am different from. So we don't want to go there either. So it could go either way. You can be just finding your tribe and doing the due diligence. So when Venus moves into Pisces, it could feel like connected and blissful, like everything just makes sense. And we have also this conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune is trining the South Node, as you can see here. And this trine to the south node that we've been having already with Neptune can also open up the floodgates of, maybe if you believe in past lives, it could be past life memory, or it could be lineage, things from the lineage that are gifts that run in the family. Maybe it's a family of musicians, and oops, suddenly you discover that you have some kind of knack or talent for music, and you're like, oh wow, I just want to explore this. The south node gives this opportunity to retrieve gifts that come from the past, or from a past soul imprint or memory, or from a collective imprint that are gifts, because it's a trine, right? And the sextile, of course, to the north node also brings us usually like what we bring from the past and how that can be actualized in now. And because it's in Taurus, is how can we bring anything from our gifts from the past that we can be open to receive and use them in the new energy that wants to anchor. And again, I think this ties into aligning yourself with the best version of you and actually getting your hands then slowly dirty. Once things move into Taurus in the next coming couple months, wow, that's when we're going to start seeing the dreams and visions that you've had in actual physical reality. So right now, again, seeds of, we're seeding the ground per se. So time to also plant actual physical food. You seed the ground, you'll see the food growing. So it's a good time to also get together. If you have maybe a project in a community garden or something like that, it's a great time to also start planting seeds, physical seeds. Let's say, so wow, the new moon happens on April 1st. Well, it's March 31st. It depends where you are at in the globe. So we have it at 11 degrees of Aries. So it's either March 31st or April 1st, depending on when you're in the world. So this new moon has a little something together with it. It's a new moon that has the sun conjunct Mercury, conjunct. So the new moon is conjunct Chiron and Mercury. So Chiron in Aries speaks of the fear of going after what we want, usually because there is a lack of trust in my ability to go for what I want. Usually when we talk about Chiron Mars or Chiron Aries, is like there's something wrong with me, my being, and if I go and do what I want in the world, Aries is about initiation. There's this fear, like, why would I even do anything? Why are you scared? Or what has still blocked you from going after what you personally want as an individual? So Chiron asks to look at that. It's an asteroid, so it might not be the most prominent energy, but whenever there are things like a new moon conjunct Chiron, it begins a cycle again for that Chiron. It begins a cycle of looking at those wounds, looking at how have I not allowed myself to go after what I want? What is holding me back? Why am I still like so scared to go after what I want? So it allows to see those wounds. And with Mercury there is, again, the access to speaking about it, to thinking about it, to writing about it. Mercury also gives us always the opportunity to communicate, to write, to bring it into the conscious mind. Because as much as Uranus is the higher mind, and Mercury, it's the conscious mind. So when we have Mercury in the mix, we can access sometimes those parts that are wounded and talk about it, write about it, feel into it. And as we uncover that, there could be a lot of like breakthrough energy as well with this. And then maybe the outcome of this is like, well, how can I go for after what I want beyond the fear? You know, some people, for example, dream of something, I don't know, they're in a job stuck in something they don't like, and then they're dreaming of something, they know it's there, they know they have it, and there's a fear of doing it. I can't do this, I can't do this. Why? So this is a good time to question that and then be brave, you know. The thing is, like, Mars and Saturn are also conjunct at the same time, so there might be a literal I can't do this energy. There's no way I'm doing this energy. So again, we're asking to go and look how and why, because Mars is going to be really stopped by Saturn. It's like, hold it, hold it. So it could be either way. It could be also, we're very rash, and in doing rash things, we hurt ourselves. So Saturn is making sure that everything is set correctly, and that Mars does not get into also a lot of anger, because Mars with its drive could also, like, you know, be very forceful. So this is a good time when we have we're having this new moon having those aspects of Jupiter, Neptune that we have discussed. We have the Chiron, and we have the Mars, Saturn, Venus is still active, even though now Saturn is in the middle of Venus and Mars. So it's interesting, the dynamic, how now it's impacting Venus and Mars, like on either side, on how to balance and be almost, like, I feel like I get this word, like equanimous and very centered and almost like cold, detached, maybe it's a better word. There's a call for detachment and rational thinking. So if Mercury is going too impulsive, there might be the need to not be so impulsive and look at these things. Well, these are some thoughts. So, and the last thing I think we have, again, it's like this Mars conjunct Saturn that I've been talking about, which will be stronger as the days go through. So by April 1st, at the end of the week, and all through the 9th, we're going to have now this conjunction of Mars and Saturn, more active, more strong. So if you feel like you're stopped in your tracks, that you can't move forward with projects, that you're like, you know, that you're stuck, use this energy to how can we move this energy in a productive way? By being focused into something. This is a great energy for intense focus instead of like frustration, because Mars Saturn can bring about a lot of frustration. And we're talking again, the fixed signs, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio, people with planets there or important angles, or your ascendant, might be feeling this like, oh, I'm like stuck, you know, like, it's not moving at the speed I want it to move. So intense, dedicated focus. This could be great energy for studying. If you have to study for a test, or like, well, I mean, not studying, maybe more like doing something that requires intense dedication, you know. And I say, like, because it's an air sign, it could be dedicating to finding something within, you know, it could be working towards some kind of social improvement. Again, Saturn in Aquarius, intense dedication, intense focus, you know, like slow and steady. This is the Mars Saturn, slow and steady. So if you can ride that wave slow and steady, then you might avoid frustration. So how can you use your energy slow and steady instead of getting frustrated? That will be the great question for this Mars Saturn and that area of life that is requiring a lot of attention. As long as these planets are still in Aquarius with Saturn, relationships still need attention. This could also point to slow down in relationships. Slow it down. Don't jump too quick. Don't jump into the sack. Don't jump, just cool. Yeah, that could be also part of that, restraining one's anger energies or sexual energies. And if you do it consciously, it's great for example, to move energy within very consciously. It's a good energy, to self-contain one's energy and not just explode. It's great for that containment. Breathing, maybe tantric practices, it's a great thing for that. Focused concentration, focused meditation. So I'm just giving you all the best uses of this energy. So whatever you're feeling for this week, I'd love to hear in the comments, how you're feeling these energies. Also, let's point out that this conjunction here is squaring the nodes. This is squaring the nodes. Whenever we have a square to the nodes, there's always a need to integrate the planets that is in the tension, which is Saturn, and Saturn Mars in this case, into the past energies that are no longer functioning. So whatever functioning Saturn had in the past in Scorpio, and tendencies, whatever tendencies there are from the past to maybe forcefulness, drama, difficulty, that's wanting to leave, or relationships that are toxic, Scorpio. And it's because I'm saying relationships because we're still in the dynamic of Mars, Venus. And there's always like this crossroads. With the North Node here, there's like, can we move towards more gentle, kind, pleasurable ways of doing relationship? That would be one interpretation, because we're talking Taurus, and Taurus is slow. It's sensual. There's pleasure in Taurus. It's a Venus-ruled sign. So how can we integrate in relationships the dynamics of Saturn, of responsibility, boundaries, into better, more gentle, kinder, pleasurable ways of relating, the North Node in Taurus? And that also goes for the construct of society in general. How can we build relationships that are more sustainable? Taurus speaks also of sustainability, and so does Saturn. And moving away from the drama, the pain, the ripping off, like the codependency as well. I feel that with this South Node in Scorpio, we're being asked, with these 3 planets here, to leave the previous codependent toxicity of our lives, whatever shape it has. And if you have any planets in Scorpio, I would definitely look in your chart to see how to address these dynamics and what wants to actually no longer be. Like, how can we leave that behind? When we did our video on the nodes, we talked about the tendencies, like the Scorpio tendencies to manipulation, to power, to discomfort, to toxicity, to like anything that it's of the lower frequency of Scorpio, or the drama, or the intensity, and the emotional turmoil, darkness. All of that is like, can we give ourselves a little break and move towards something more sustainable, kind, gentle, Taurus, sensual, pleasurable? And how can we integrate Saturn within that? What responsibility we have in that, in achieving that? That's that. I think that's it for this week. That is the end of our slideshow. Yes, that's it. So with this being said, if you please feel free to subscribe, share, like this video if it helps you, comment below if you have any insights about this week, how it's impacting you. And please feel free to also subscribe to Astrology Victoria. We are on Instagram, we are on Meetup, we are on Facebook, so you can get videos, updates, and we can grow the community together. Also, if you like a reading with me or with Dulcie, please find our information in the description box below if you're needing some guidance in your life. So with this being said, I'm going to just leave you, and may you have a wonderful, enlightened, conscious, amazing week. Blessings.